The Philadelphia Eagles are now officially undefeated. They are 1-0 in the preseason after just beating the Ravens 16-13. In today's video, I break down everything that happened in the game, everything that matters for key players, and just what you should know if you didn't want to put yourself through a preseason game. Starting off, I'll go over just the major points of the game because I guess why not? The Eagles started with their second string offense led by Picket. He was okay. First drive down the field, they made it to like the other team's 40 or so, went for it on fourth, didn't get it. The Ravens get the ball, go down the field, kick a field goal. Of course, the Ravens and Jim Harbaugh would kick a field goal because they're the only ones who actually care about winning these games, and they'll take the points when they can. The Eagles on the other side, just, they don't care. So, at least they don't care that much if they win, so they were going for it on fourth all the time. Anyways, they kicked a field goal. The Eagles then got the ball back later on at the end of the first quarter, marched down the field, scored a touchdown from Kenny Pickett to Will Shipley. It was about a 7-yard pass. Looked good. Wasn't like a great pass or anything, but Will Shipley was wide open, and you take the plays that you're given. Can't blame him for a wide open pass. Most of the Eagles starters on the defensive side were actually on the field for the majority of the first half, which is completely different than what we're used to in prior years of starters not playing at all. So, Jalen Carter got time. Everyone essentially got time except for Slay, who didn't play at all. The Ravens offense, even though it was their second team offense, played okay in the first half. They marched down the field a few times. However, the Eagles defense seems to be doing a bend but don't break. They do let open some easy 10-yard passes or runs, which felt a little silly and, wasn't fun to watch. But when it got to the important part of the field, the Eagles defense held strong. The rookie Quinyon Mitchell almost had an interception, probably should have had an interception, but it was great coverage and it has gotten everyone excited. But in the second quarter, Justin Tucker kicks another field goal, so it is 6-6. Because I didn't mention this, but Jake Elliott actually missed an extra point, and this happens again later on. So third quarter, not a whole lot happens. Lou Nichols does get a 2-yard rushing touchdown, putting the Eagles up 13-6. And then finally the fourth quarter, at the end of the game, crunch time, this is where it actually got pretty exciting. With 6 minutes to go, the Ravens score a touchdown to tie it up. Then with about a minute or so left, Eagles march down the field and they give Jake Elliott the opportunity to kick a field goal. However, surprisingly, he misses again. This gives the Ravens a little bit of time. Of course, Harbaugh takes advantage. They dial up a big pass play, but Patrick Johnson gets a strip sack, and then Jake Elliott kicks a walk-off field goal. That's right, the Eagles beat the Ravens in the preseason. So that's almost as good as winning the Super Bowl. But now, what actually matters a little more than this silly preseason game, what did the players look like? Who made impressions? So, first off, as I said, starters did not play on the offensive side of the ball. You didn't see a Jalen Hurts, you didn't see an A.J. Brown, you didn't see Saquon, anyone like that, they didn't play. So I'll start with the defense, which did have important players playing. Players we'll see. So Quinyon Mitchell, as I mentioned earlier, he looks good. He looks really good. Keely Ringo also looks really good. It seems like we actually have some decent corner depth, and the corners are the best they've been in years. I know 2 years ago, we did have two good corners, James Bradbury and Slay, when we went to the Super Bowl, but the depth is so much better than it was then. That year, if either one got injured, we would be cooked. This year, we've already had a few injured, and we're still fine. So that's a huge improvement, and you can tell how he put a lot of time into that. So especially Ringo and Quinyon look good. The next defensive player that stood out was Trotter Jr. He stuck out to a lot of people. He had a really good game. He looked like he belonged out there. He ended up with 6 tackles and a sack, but just watching it, honestly, there's a decent chance he takes over as one of the linebackers at some point in the year, or at the very least passes Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean seems to be falling apart. I don't know if he'll really have an opportunity to start for the Eagles ever again at this point. It's too bad. Injuries kind of ruined him early on. Who knows what he would have been if he just was able to start his career healthy, but I think the Eagles have kind of moved on at this point. He seems to be the fourth linebacker, falling apart a bit.
We want to tell you the stuff we're not good at.
Our weaknesses.
So we're clear up front.
And now the final part of the defense, what used to be the stronghold of this defense, the defensive line. So it does not look the same as what it used to. I'm not saying it's a bad defensive line. There's still some really good players. Jalen Carter still looks good. And there were some splash plays. Nolan Smith got a sack, but he wasn't really blocked. So how much credit do you get for that? The play I mentioned earlier with Patrick Johnson getting a strip sack, that's good too, but he's not really going to play that much. He's, a borderline roster type guy, mainly special teams type guy. So does that matter that much? But it appears so far that the defensive line is essentially Jalen Carter, who's great, and a bunch of guys who have potential, have athletic traits, but aren't proven. And this could be a weakness of the defense that we're not used to. I mean, we're used to an excellent defensive line that was loaded, the backup defensive lineman being other teams' starter level, and we're just not at that point this year. Now, some players could emerge as the season occurs, when it starts regular season, or maybe by the end of the season they emerge. Nolan Smith could get better. Jalix Hunt could prove to be a good player. He does look athletic, but I would not expect a ton of sacks from this defense unless they're coverage sacks from a good defensive backfield. Another thing that may happen is Vic Fangio will dial up some pressure or some simulated pressure to, pressure the quarterback, but it just won't be line up the defense lineman and get a bunch of sacks. Or if it will, we're just kind of hoping for it at this point. I'm not saying they played terrible, but they definitely did not look great. As a whole, I think I'm fairly happy with the defense. They did have their miscues, of course, but the bend but not break defense I'm happy with. Giving up 2 field goals in the first half and a touchdown in the fourth quarter, 13 total points. I can deal with it. So that's it for the defensive side of the ball, and if you're liking this video, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing to the channel for more NFL content. But back to the video. So before I get to the offense, I go into the special teams. Kickoff returns, the new special kickoff return. Honestly, not much happened. I know I have heard some people saying that it's not that great, but you just have to look at it compared to the alternative of just kicking the ball through the end zone or getting rid of the kickoff altogether. So if I have those 3 options, I'm going to pick this new one and see what these NFL coaches can do. The punting looks pretty good so far. I think we actually have a punter once again. Wish we had him in the Super Bowl. But anyways, Jake Elliott, he did go 2 for 4, but Jake Elliott has earned my trust throughout the years. I'll let him slide. I'm not too concerned. On the kick return game, Kenny Gainwell, Will Shipley, didn't really do much, didn't break away any. Punt returns, Britton Covey is great. He is a great punt returner, and that's why he's going to make this team, because he's one of the best in the NFL, and you just don't know it. But he had 1 punt return. He got 26 yards. Honestly, he almost returned it for a touchdown. One of our own players kind of ran into him. He got tripped up a bit. I think he almost broke that away for a touchdown, and it was a great return. Ainias Smith, on the other hand, he has struggled, and he is having a very rough year as a rookie. Now to the offensive side of the ball, starting at quarterback, Kenny Pickett looked okay. He was not great. He threw the ball. I think his furthest pass was about 10 yards. He was not great. He was 14 for 22, 89 yards and a touchdown. But I don't know. He wasn't nothing special. Tanner McKee, he played with bad wide receivers, but he was not anything special either.
Most of these guys never had a prime.
This guy here is dead.
Honestly, at this point, you just have to hope that Jalen Hurts stays healthy, or I don't know. Now, maybe Kenny would look better with the starting wide receivers, but I would rather just not find that out. All of the Eagles running backs looked good, or at least almost all of them. Will Shipley had the touchdown. Lou Nichols had the touchdown. Pick your poison, but all of them look pretty good, and there's a decent chance that just means that the offensive line is doing some really good run blocking. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards, strong offensive line. And I can't wait to see Saquon with this offensive line. He might burst through, get some 80-yard touchdown runs. Who knows? And then finally, the wide receivers and tight ends. And honestly, I'm just not too impressed by any of them. No one really stood out. Maybe John Ross. I am a fan of Britton Covey, so maybe him. But there wasn't any real standout wide receivers or tight ends for that matter. So in recap, Eagles won. Great day. Got some football, more starter time than I would have expected, and it was kind of exciting. The biggest weaknesses on the team seem to be linebacker, chalked, defensive line, a little more shocking, and then the third wide receiver, because it really seems like it is A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and then no one else. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. What are your thoughts on the team, on the preseason game, and anything else in the NFL? And I will see you later.